Welcome to Unveiled Tarot with Maria Leggett. That's me. We're going to go through the entire tarot deck from beginning to end, covering all the suits, the numbers, and all the things. I look forward to having you back each week. Thank you so much for showing up. Today we are going to start with an introduction to tarot. Where did tarot originate? According to Britannica.com, tarot decks were actually invented in Italy in the early 1400s. They did this by taking an existing four-suited pack of cards and added a fifth suit of 21 specially illustrated cards that they called trionfi, which actually means triumphs. And now you know where the word trump cards come from. And they added a card to that 21 card deck and called it il matto, which means the fool. So now we refer to the trionfi as the trump cards, and that means that they're more important than any of the other cards, which is fairly accurate. If you read the pamphlet which comes with the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, you're going to see that they indicate the tarot could have also come from the Egyptians through the Book of Thoth. And Thoth is a well-known Egyptian deity who's also said to have been a king at one point in Egypt. So the pamphlet also goes on to talk about the Egyptians and the Gypsies being responsible for distributing tarot throughout Europe. And this makes complete sense to me because I have a tarot guide and her name is Madame Rose Merta. And Madame Rose Merta is a gypsy, and she says that the gypsies were the ones who were responsible for the tarot. She's very adamant about that, but I don't have any physical evidence to back that up, so take that for what it's worth. What is tarot? Tarot are cards that are a physical manifestation of divination which allow you to hear from your angels or spirit guides without requiring anyone else to translate the message for you. You can actually pull the cards out, shuffle them, and start to put them down, and whatever layout works for you. There are so many different kinds. And you can put them down and understand what each position means and get the messages directly from your spirit guides without having to go for someone else and say, hey, what is going on with me? Although I will say, to be fair, as a tarot reader and as a psychic medium myself, it always works much better sometimes for me to go to somebody else and read my cards. I have a very difficult time reading for myself just because I like to spin things. For me, meaning I always try to make things worse than what they really are. However, reading for yourself daily with tarot, you can get a card pulled and you look at it and go, yeah, I hear you. I know what you're saying. Whether or not you listen is a whole nother ball game. So the Rider-Waite deck, which I absolutely love, was published in 1909 by Rider Company. And the deck was authored by A.E. Waite and illustrated by Pamela Colman Smith. The deck used to be called the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and then it just got dropped to Rider-Waite, which is truly unfortunate because Pamela Colman Smith was a fantastic artist. But because she was a female back in 1909, they didn't really care so much about that, and they dropped her name from the deck, even though she created the most famous artwork in tarot ever. And unfortunately, she wound up dying penniless and alone, which she should have made a lot of money off of this deck because it was pretty popular. Pamela and A.E. actually met in the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. They both were members of this group, and they both were followers of the occult and had practiced and understood the deeper meanings of the cards. If you actually read the book, The Key to the Tarot, which A.E. Waite wrote, he's also the author of the deck, obviously. He wrote in there that unless you have studied under these hermetic principles and under that law, that you're not ever going to be able to completely understand what the tarot deck truly means. However, he did write The Key to the Tarot to teach the basic meaning. So there are deeper meanings built into this artwork than most people actually know. And, maybe back then that was the case, but I think now with so many people becoming open to tarot and open to all the things, and you have so many different organizations now that study the occult, I'm not so sure that that's an actual truth any longer. So we'll just leave it at that. However, I do want to say that the tarot was originally created with Christianity in mind, because one of the major arcana is the Hierophant, and that actually used to be a pope. And so if you look at the Hierophant, you can see so many Christian things in there. You've got the cross, the equal arm cross. I mean, it's all throughout the tarot. So the fact that Christians try to shun this deck is amazing to me, because it's about the Bible, but I digress. So the tarot deck, a basic tarot deck, has 78 cards, and these 78 cards are broken down into two separate entities. One is the major arcana and one is the minor arcana. The major arcana has these 22 cards, and they range from the number 0 to the number 21. And they start with the Fool and they end with the World. The minor arcana has 4 different suits, and there are 14 cards in every suit. So there are 56 cards in the minor arcana. You have cups, pentacles, wands, and swords. And within each one of those smaller suits, you have what are called the Pip Cards. And the Pip Cards are ace through 10. And then you also have the Court Cards. And the Court Cards are the Page, the Knight, the Queen, and the King, because they represent the court. That's why they're called the Court Cards. Now, the major arcana is the journey that everybody will take through life. So if you look at it like the Fool is you being born, right? Because you're new, you know absolutely nothing. You just left the oneness of God, the oneness of spirit, by being on the other side, agreeing to come into this world, into an incarnation, and to bring this soul contract into the world. So that's what the Fool is going to represent. And then the next set of cards take you through all these different lessons that we go through in life. So these are the really big life lessons, such as learning to walk on your own, unassisted, when it's your turn to be the teacher, these huge changes that you can't avoid, and even the moments when the rug gets pulled out from underneath you. But it also has celebrations and opportunities and so many other things. These cards can represent some of the most impressionable memories you have, which may not always be fun, and sometimes they can be actually downright uncomfortable. However, we have the option to not only survive, but to thrive and learn from each one of these lessons. The tarot can help us in our daily lives if you just learn to use the deck for the divination tool that it really is. And I think this is what people forget, right? You're not looking at it to say, help me decide my entire life, because we have free will. And this is what I think a lot of people tend to forget, is that we have free will. We get a choice over whether or not we allow that card to rule our day. Now, if you're really down deep into spirituality, you may question my using the term free will, because if you look at your astrology chart, a lot of your life really is panned out. But somewhere along the way, I like to hold on to the hope, even if it's false hope, that somewhere I do have choices. So, with the major arcana, one of the biggest questions I get about it is, does it mean something if you have a lot of those numbered cards? Because the major arcana have numbers on them as compared to King of or Ace of. And the answer to that is yes. Yes, it does. It means you have a lot of crap going on in your life. And you may not necessarily be paying attention and addressing them as you should. And Spirit's going, hey, move it. So, interestingly enough, you will figure out what each of them mean as long as you tune into the podcast and continue to listen. So, the one last thing that I want to tell you is, depending on the deck you use, the cards could be in a different order. I suggest using Rider Waite. It's one of the things I like to use. And the other deck that I like to use is Barbara Moore, Your Tarot, Your Way. And I'll talk about both of those decks later on in the podcast. So now we have the Minor Arcana. And the Minor Arcana is broken down into 4 different suits to represent the 4 basic areas of life. The tarot grew in popularity, and authors decided to start creating decks using elements rather than the suits, because some people would look at the suits and say, oh, and they immediately associated it with Rider-Waite, and they didn't like the fact that it was cups, pentacles, wands, and swords, because the Christians have decided that they absolutely hate the word pentacle because that's witchcraft and you should banish all those things from your life, which isn't really true. However, so here are the equivalents. Cups equal water, equal hearts. Pentacles equal earth, equal diamonds. Wands equal fire, equals clubs. And swords equal air, equals spades. And there are people who quite effectively can read tarot with a regular deck of cards. There's no major arcana in them, mind you, because you only have the basic 52, which leaves out, and so that's going to bring up a question, right? So what's missing? Because you had 56 in the Minor Arcana. And so with the 52, what it does is it leaves out the page. So there's no page in a regular deck of cards, but you do have the Jack, which to me would be the Knight, and you have the Queen and the King. So you have all the regular Pip cards, Ace to 10. But again, effectively, you can use a deck of cards to do that. I don't know how to do it. I would love to learn how to do that. So if any of you know how to do that, I would love it. The Minor Arcana represents all of our daily tasks, which aren't always minor, to be honest with you, because in the Minor Arcana, you can see marriage or children, and those are not necessarily small things. Those are fairly big things that can change the trajectory of our lives. However, the Minor Arcana shows us energies which push us through our day or our week, and these are subject to change, again, as I said, that we decide to change our free will. When you change your mind, you're changing your day, and the cards can change with you. Your spirit guides know what your brain is processing, and to help you, pull the appropriate cards as a tangible way of letting you know what is going on. Again, the Minor Arcana, just like the Major, have a story to tell, and it's in a specific order for a reason. It's the progression of your daily learning from the very small things leading up to the bigger things and the very important people in your life. The important people in your life can be represented by the Major Arcana. However, they're generally represented by the court cards. So the court cards were really difficult for me to learn. They were so difficult for me. In fact, tarot itself was so difficult for me to learn. I left my first class learning the tarot crying. I had just butted heads with my teacher. She had a misconception about me, and it caused some animosity between the two of us in the class, and I wound up crying. I mean, not just boo-hoo, I'm talking about sobbing, can't catch your breath kind of crying. And I'm laughing about it because I look back and I understand why Spirit did what they did. Spirit gave that teacher to me, and she was such a blessing to me, because even though I left the class crying, I learned exactly what kind of teacher I never wanted to be. So I thank Spirit profusely for putting that teacher in my path so that I could learn how to do and be the teacher that she was not for me. So now it is time to go on and talk about what decks we should use. My favorite deck to use is Barbara Moore, Your Tarot, Your Way. And it's Tarot Made Easy. It comes in this handy little box that has, a nice little magnet clip. And it has a book inside where it gives you all the meanings if that's helpful for you. I enjoyed having books. I had a really hard time learning tarot, which is why I enjoy teaching it. And again, this artwork on the back doesn't really differentiate between top and bottom. So what deck you actually use is going to be up to you. But I am going to be using the Rider-Waite-Smith deck and this Barbara Moore deck because those are the ones that I am comfortable with and I love them. A lot of my clients, when I go to do readings for them, they don't care for the Rider-Waite deck because of the artwork. The artwork can be a little scary depending on the card. And it doesn't have a lot of fluff to it. It's just very straightforward, which, I mean, it was 1909. There wasn't a whole lot going on with the printing presses back then. So they could only use a certain amount of colors and do certain things. They were limited by the way that the printing press could reproduce the artwork. Nowadays, it's completely not like that at all. We have digital imagery. We have so many different kind of things. The printing presses are so advanced now that we can have this more common artwork, and it looks a little bit nicer. So these are the two decks that I will be using. It doesn't matter to me what deck you use, because the basic meanings are still the basic meanings. If you are using a deck that veers so far off of the basic meanings from these, you may have a very difficult time using that deck with this course. I highly suggest that you buy the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which is cheap enough. You can get it anywhere. Do a Google search, you'll find it anywhere. And it's really not that expensive. The Barbara Moore deck, I think, is like $25, including the book with the box and the cards. So to me, it's not that big of an investment, and they're really good cards. I love working with them. My next most popular question is, do you use reverse cards? And my answer to that is, I do not. So I've had several teachers, and my very first teacher, she was very adamant that she would never purposefully reverse the cards. To her, and this makes complete sense to me, so when you first get the deck, everything's upright and they're all in order. So you have to shuffle them in order to change up the energy, right? You have to cleanse them and you have to pull them together. So each card is an energy of its own. So the way that she explained it to me, which I firmly and wholeheartedly agree with, is if you were to take the deck, pull it apart, and reverse half of it, I am making a karmic decision for my reader to reverse some of those cards. Now, the opposing side to that is Spirit is there, and if Spirit doesn't want you to get reverse cards, you're not going to get reverse cards. However, you've literally taken half of your deck and reversed it. Is that fair? And I am of a mindset that I don't believe that I want to bear the karmic responsibility for reversing a card and having it purposely show up reversed in somebody's reading. Is it going to be helpful? It could be, but I don't want to deal with that karmic responsibility, so I choose not to. I've also spoken with a high priestess in the Gardnerian tradition, and she's been initiated into several different, the Wicca tradition. She is the high priestess of the Minoan Sisterhood, and I absolutely love her. She is Lady Rhea Rivera, and Rhea has been reading tarot for 40 years. And when I talked to her about this, I said, listen, I just want to get another professional's advice, especially for somebody who's been in the occult for a very long time. And her explanation to me was basically the same, which I found very interesting. She said that she was taught in the early 70s that you absolutely do not reverse the cards. You leave your deck upright at all times. Now, with that being said, if for some reason, when you know that you purposely leave all your cards upright, if you are doing a layout for yourself or for someone else and a card comes up reversed and your instinct is, oh my God, how did that happen? Leave it reversed. Don't change it. The way that I have it set up with my spirit guides is if for some reason a card really does show up reversed, there was a reason why it was reversed, and Spirit did it. I didn't do it. And I'm okay with that. So there have been times, and it's not happened just one or two times. It has happened several times. I don't want to say every layout because it doesn't. I would say probably 10% of the time, I will have a card show up reversed. I will also say that there are times when I'm doing a regular card shuffle or like a daily card pull on my lives where Spirit will say to me, here's what we want you to do. Pick up the deck and shuffle it until we say to stop. So I listen to my spirit guide and I shuffle them. And then when I hear stop, I stop. And then sometimes they'll say to me, I want you to take the top 10 cards, reverse them, put them throughout the deck and shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. Or they'll tell me 13 cards. Whatever number they give me, that's what I do. It's never been more than 13, ever. So then I'll reverse them and I put them in and I shuffle, shuffle, shuffle. And they say, okay, stop. Once they've said stop, then I know that they've purposely had this reversed card. Now, I will say, even though 13 of them have been the most that I've ever reversed, I have done card pulls where they'll tell me to shuffle part way through. They give me all kinds of directions where if those 13 are reversed, maybe 5 come up. So I know that it is spirit directing me. And as those come up, I put them back upright because I know that I am supposed to. So I don't feel that there is a right or a wrong for reversed, because there are plenty of people who read with reverses and they make complete sense to them and they're okay with it. Just from what I've been taught and from what I am comfortable with and what my spirit guides tell me, I am not going to reverse them unless spirit says, we want you to reverse this many cards, do it this way, and I honor them. And when we're done, I put everything back upright. So if you want to think about it, right, you want to think about each card is energy. And so let's say you're doing the Celtic Cross. There are 10 cards in the Celtic Cross. So it's not like playing with regular cards, right? Unless you're using regular cards as tarot, which you can do. Anyway, so when you're talking about doing a layout for the Celtic Cross, it's really important to understand you don't just take the cards and scoop them, right? You pick them up one by one. You clear the energy from your layout first, and then you pick them up one by one, because individually they are energy. If you just scoop them, you're doing chaotic energy and just randomly grabbing all this, putting it together. And that's how you can end up with reversed cards, because you're not paying attention. You're not setting the intention that you want clean and clear energy. So that's just how I work with it. I clear the energy from a layout and I make sure that I pick them up one at a time so that I can put them back into my deck in an upright position. That is my choice, and that is what I will teach. You are welcome to do as you please in this course. I just don't use them. So blessings to you. I hope that all makes sense. Thank you for allowing me to be of service to you today. You can find me on Instagram, Maria Leggett Unveiled. You can also find me on Facebook at the same name, Maria Leggett Unveiled, and my website, marialeggettunveiled.com. If you'd like to book an appointment with me, you can do so at the web, and you can find my amazing new Oracle cards that are due to start shipping on February 3rd on Etsy.com at Maria Leggett Unveiled. Thank you so much.